At the end of your life, what will be your legacy? What will you leave behind for future generations? For the world, join the World Messenger, Izabela Lundberg, each week as she brings you a new distinguished guest from the business, sports, or entertainment world to share their success, their struggles, and their lessons. They will share their insights into current hot topics that affect everyone. Izabela facilitates an intimate, vulnerable environment to find the true value of humanity and real leadership. Are you ready for your legacy? The legacy that matters?
Hello, my beautiful friends. It's Izabela Lundberg here, the World Messenger, and I'm inviting you for another epic episode. Today I have an extraordinary guest joining me who is not only just a successful entrepreneur, but he has been working with some of the top Fortune 10 or 15 companies in the world, has insane tenure from sales to understanding and depicting complex business issues to finding also sustainable businesses and environments, and also founded and created something that I'm absolutely thrilled to learn more about because I've been doing that, which is C-Level Roundtable and discussions, solving some of the most complex pain points that you can possibly imagine that businesses are facing, regardless how big or small. And he is the king of finding the hidden money and revenue for your entrepreneurial business. So without further ado, let's invite in this conversation Jeff Cohen, that is joining me from California, sunny California. How are you?
I'm good. It may be sunny, but it is really cold this morning.
You cannot compare the cold with Colorado.
Well, my wife is from Breckenridge, right? And so, like, we became foster to adopt parents in December. We're taking our daughter to the dentist this morning. Like, we're like dressing her in this like ski parka and just everything, right? It is chilly here today.
Oh, that's so funny. I've been spending and due to the COVID and everything up in the Summit County, and then spent quite a bit of time in Breckenridge, Colorado. So that is hilarious. So you guys are at least ready for that chill weather in LA. But let me tell you, you don't want to be in Colorado or Breckenridge right now.
Well, let's just say I've been here almost all my life, so my blood's nice and thin. The chill weather is not my favorite environment. I really like the beach. Nice, warm, sunny.
I can't blame you. I will give anything to have a nice meal in Malibu right now and walk on the beach and, and conduct some business. I mean, it's not a bad place to do that, isn't it?
Not a bit. There's some great spots I can think of. And Isabel, thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I mean, you are an amazing creative mind. Where do we even start? You've been on Shark Tank. You've been working for one of my dream companies when I was a child, seeing logos across the Europe everywhere. And of course, we're talking about IBM and innovation and technology and who they are, and then everything in between. So Jeff, do you mind sharing a little bit about, you just mentioned you and your wife adopted and fostering actually a child, a girl. How this all started?
So first off, I'm just going to preface this by saying we're going to hit the surface of everything probably today. And in May, I'm aiming to publish a book that has a lot of personal stories, and those things are in it. So anyone that wants to go a layer deeper is welcome to check that out. But I've had a great career. When I'm telling you before, I was 8 years old. I wrote all the sports teams and I asked them to send me stickers. And I got an enormous pile of stickers. And, as an 8-year-old, what do? You say to your parents, hey, I'm going to put them up on my wall. Is that okay? And I got a big decline and I was bummed. So I put them on my notebook instead. And then I had friends saying to me, hey, that's really cool. Can I have one of those? And I started selling them. And I made $50. And my dad turns to me and goes, Jeff, you're an entrepreneur. And I said, wow, what's that? And anyway, he explained it. And I've been living that dream ever since. But I've worked with some very large companies. You mentioned IBM and ADP. I've also had 6 companies I founded myself. One was a tech firm. I grew that from nothing with no investment but me to a team of about 50 people. We did 8 figures of revenue and grew it very fast. And in 2007, had the experience a lot of companies did. We were so effective at what we did in helping organizations improve the process they used for writing software. But when they ran out of money, they all said the same thing at the same time, which was, Jeff, we love you.
Of course, you're making us money.
We just can't use you right now. So I had the experience of a controlled crash. And from that, I learned a lot. I had tremendous depression at the time. I didn't even realize what was going on, but I just was. I mean, when you sit in front of the Sci-Fi Channel for 8 hours a day, and your wife leaves the house in the morning and you don't see her until the nighttime, and your kids come home from school and go straight to their room and start playing video games or doing whatever they do, and you're just disconnected. Like, I really notice now, I actually pushed my entire family away. And out of that, like, I got divorced, and my relationship with my kids was awful, just terrible. I will say this, though, in 2012, I met my now current wife, who's amazing. And I also started taking this program in 2013 called the Team Management Leadership Program from Landmark. And in that program, I actually got to look at myself. And what I noticed was all these things I told you about my personal life. I actually got to start looking at that and working on it. Now I have a great relationship with my kids again. My ex-wife and I are friendly. Like, there's a life after going through the eye of the needle. But I also, in that experience, noticed that I was a lousy boss.
Wow, that is such a epiphany, but also such a bold, vulnerable realization that you're sharing.
Well, thank you. And I'll tell you that all of what I've gotten since comes out of being able to just show everybody my warts. Listen, everybody has them. You can either cover them up and make it look nice, or you can address them. So my way of addressing them was, in this program, I started C-Level Roundtable, and I very quickly had about 50 CEOs, entrepreneurs, and business owners start getting together regularly in groups of 8. And we were really focused and concentrating on how we could identify the gaps in our business and where improvement could be. And out of that, I created the Next Level 90 Business Accelerator Program, which is a structure for how do you operate a business. Now, there are a lot of great structures for that out there. The EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, Scaling Up, 10X, like, all of those are great systems. What I noticed in studying all of those systems is they say really important things like, you need the right employee doing the right thing at the right time.
Yes.
And as I started looking at that with all these CEOs, what I noticed was missing was, well, actually, how? How do you know you have the right person? How do you know it's the right time? Like, how? And so the book I'm publishing this year in the first half is called Countable, a practical guide to lift, shift, and empower you and your team. And it really is a step-by-step for, like, you can do the Next Level 90 program. All of the assets are available. They're all going to be on the website. You probably want to have a coach work with you on that. Like, what's important about it, things like that is, again, often people don't acknowledge deeply and openly the flaws they have, but we all have them.
Yes.
My very first chapter in the book is called Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, you're like wondering, oh my gosh, what is he? Did he steal a car? Like what happened? Like I get that.
I'm already hooked. I can't wait to read it.
So, I mean, that's a story about how my first trigger was ever developed, at least the earliest one that I can remember. I did steal a car. I stole a Hot Wheels from my friend when I was 5. And then I got home for dinner and my mom found it. And I got the never ending string of, why did you do that? How come you took it? Why? It was like the Spanish Inquisition of why.
I don't know.
So, so finally I just said I wanted it, right? And then my mom did the mom thing. She said, okay, now go give it back. And I walked up the block, and we were living in Brooklyn at the time, and it had snowed. And I looked out. There was a snowdrift in his front lawn. I buried the car in the snowdrift and I walked home, and I'm like, he'll get it. He'll think he just left it there, right? I was totally a coward. I was just a 5-year-old coward. But what showed up out of all of that was when people ask me why in just the right tone, it could be you, it could be my wife, it could be anybody. I'll take out my sword, I'll grab my shield, and I will defend and protect myself for 20 minutes. Here's the key. You do that in your company. You call your people up and you say, why is this not done? How come it's late? Who gives a crap? Because what you've just done when you do that is you've now triggered them, and you're either going to get 10 to 20 minutes of why, and you really don't care about that, but you're not thinking about the outcome. You're thinking about why is this? I'm frustrated. People don't think about the outcome. And I've got some great stories about those things, Izabela. Clients that have noticed that they're triggering their business partner and they lose them for 4 or 5 days because now they're triggered and they're worthless. Yeah. To managers that are triggering all 6 or 10 of their direct reports, and they're wasting 2 or 3 hours a week listening to why. And that's not even the time that they lose in productivity from the people working for them.
So very true. We live in such a cancel culture and blame culture right now more than ever, and lack of accountability. And I loved to find anecdote for that with your book title. Do you mind repeating again the name of it and meaning of it?
Sure. Can I show it on the screen? Would that be helpful?
Let me just see. I believe, yes, you can.
Okay. Because I actually do have the final cover. So that is the book. It's called Countable, a practical guide to lift, shift, and empower you and your team. Mm. And in the book, there's actually a story about why this graphic is meaningful to me. I just really open with, what it is that I am as a person. And the people that want to read this book, that want to look at, how they can have their companies operate, are people that are open to being able to transform an environment, having a culture in your company that works. If you're not open to that, this book is a waste of your time. In fact, in the introduction, I actually tell you who should not read the book.
I love it. I love it.
So don't waste your time if you're one of those people. It's in the very beginning. Take a look at that. Don't buy it. But on the other hand, if someday you want to actually have entrepreneurial freedom, which means you can go on a vacation for a week or 2 without actually calling the office, and your people are leaders that create other leaders. So when you sell the company, you don't have a 5-year earnout. You actually get the money right now and could walk away. Those are the kind of people that want to read this.
Yeah. That is
so I just want to check in because I've been doing so much talking, Izabela. What do you kind of maybe you could just share with everyone what you're kind of hearing in this conversation so far.
It's a very, very great point that you're making, and your book, it's obviously very timely. What we're seeing is right now huge patterns of resignation, right? And companies are losing the best talent as a result of lack of accountability and a lack of proper engagement. And as a result, when people are mistreated, when people are grilled for why versus what can we do to fix it, where is the problem, how can I support you, how can we learn from it and not repeat it again, or how we can make things better. When we change the script, we see tremendous need for reinvention. So with that in mind, obviously you've been working in technology space for so long, and businesses, and you created software and technology yourself to help the businesses. So more than anybody, you can see how the things are repetitive. Every time we ignore it, warning signs keep coming back. And with those warning signs, I'm curious, what do you see the most happening right now? And am I off my rocker? Because reinvention is the only way to be. You can get something from old mold and stuffy container and expect magic, right? It just doesn't work that way.
No, you're spot on. In fact, what you just said triggered a quote I have in the book. So, if you want to reinvent yourself, you want to reinvent something, you want to transform something, you want something better, you want more, whatever that is, what we often don't think about is whatever we resist just continues.
Yeah.
What you resist persists. And what happens is, and I had a client, he's like, this partner is putting my meetings off and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, how long do you want to be on it for? Because as long as you're on it, we're not moving forward here. He's like, I said, it could be a day, an hour, a minute, a second. He goes, give me a minute. I'm like, okay, great. You have 60 seconds. It starts now. Show me your angriest face. Like really just be on it for a minute, right? And it was amazing. And then at the end, I said, okay, you ready to just give that up? He goes, yeah, that feels really good now. Okay, great. Now, what do you want to create? Like, what do you want in that relationship? But, like you said a minute ago, often what happens, and, I love my wife. So, honey, when you see this, just know I love you. But she will often go to, how come you didn't do that instead of, what's the priority of that? And in a company, the two things that matter the most, by the way, and if you have these two things, you have everything. Everything. The first one is trust.
Yes.
Now, lots of companies say they have trust. Lots of studies, like I saw a study that said 72% of the people trust their leaders. What do they trust them for?
Exactly. And based on what they give their trust to, what's the record showing, right?
Well, you don't know but most leaders are not saying, look, you can count on me to do this and this and this, but you can't count on me for that and that. Right? So being countable is about trust. When you have an environment where your people will tell you, you can count on me to do this, this, and this, you cannot count on me to do this, this, and this, then you have a place where you're able to actually save time, get work done more effectively.
Yes.
Right? And so what I outline in my book is, how do you get there? What are the steps? When you hire someone and you're interviewing them and you decide this is the perfect person for that job, and then you do the thing I like to call the pile-on. You say, oh, by the way, can you also do this thing over here? What do you think they're going to say? They want the job. 90% of the time, they're going to say, sure, I'll do that. And then you hire them. And now you've got another responsibility for them. And how do you know that they're good at it, that they like doing it, it's a strength of theirs, you actually haven't done anything to figure that out. You just got, yes, I can do that. Because you have this level of trust you've built up in your mind in the interview process. Back to, how do you know you can trust someone for something? So I give you the formula for that in the book. And then you start using these trust processes. And the other thing that you must have is alignment. Like, how do you know that the people actually doing the jobs are aligned with the priorities of the CEO? Because often you've got the CEO and then their direct reports and their direct reports and then the people doing the work. Right? So that's what my Next Level 90 Business Accelerator program is, right? It's, how do you do that? What is the process? How do we know what the business goals and objectives and the milestones are from the CEO? Then each direct report of the CEO is doing everything that they need to do, not only to meet the CEO's vision, but to align now with their counterparts. Like the CEO is going to say, we're going to double sales. Okay, well, now you've got a marketing activity, a sales activity, a hiring activity, and a finance activity, and some legal activities. Is everybody doing everything to support each other in meeting that goal? How do you know? So I give you, how do you know, like, what is that step-by-step process in the book? Because if you don't know, then you get to the next layer down of these, the direct reports of the department heads, and they might be doing things that are aligned with leadership, but they're like in their own car. You know, I live in LA, right? We have a bunch of freeways. Just picture this for a minute. The CEO's on the 405 going north, he's going to the Bay Area. And then you've got a CFO that's on the 10 East, the CMO that's on the 5 South, right? And they're going as fast as they can. They'll just never get to the same place. How often does that happen? How often does that happen? Like in your world, I see it all the time.
Way too often. Way too often.
Yeah, I see it all.
That's why we're having so many issues. That's why we're seeing so many issues and problems, don't we? With that in mind, I love what is coming in the book, because obviously years of wisdom and experience and failing and reinventing and repositioning and restructuring, and obviously making magic happen in everything you do. I'm curious, if you don't mind, I'm sure all the listeners that are listening this as well watching are eager to hear also a little bit about how the Shark Tank experience helped you to pivot and come to aha moments and realizations.
That's really a great question. So I listen, I was on the very first season of Shark Tank. When my software company failed and I went bankrupt, I thought it was the end of the world. I mean, really just, it was a dark pit. And I helped everyone in the software company get jobs. Some of them, you know, even including my partners, like I made sure everyone knew, hey, look, the ship is going down, get off. And, but I had to close the company up, and there were things I had to do, and I couldn't hold a full-time job down and do that. And at the time I'd been making these energy bars, and it was like the one bright thing in my life. My kids and I were making these bars. Everyone in the family loved them. The whole family got involved. My ex-wife helped, you know, making them. My kids helped sell them. And then a friend of mine came over, and he said, hey, can I take some of those to work? So I gave him some. And the next day he called me and says, hey, can you come down here? I'm like, why? He goes, well, they want to buy them. I'm like, what do they want to buy? They want to buy your energy bars. I'm like, okay. So he was working at Warner Brothers at the time, and I went down to the lot. And before I knew it, I was selling energy bars to 20 TV shows and movies, and that expanded from there. And then my sister, was in real estate at the time, the real estate crash happened, right? So she goes, hey, let's get him at Whole Foods. So she did that. And then one day she called me and said, hey, there's this new show coming. I got us an audition. Are you in? I'm like, totally. So 5 a.m. on a Sunday, we went downtown to this audition. And they loved it. And they loved the story. And they asked me to be on Shark Tank. And I was in the first season, episode 5. And it was a real awakening. Like, I had this product.
Wow.
We were, expanding. And I think I had at the time, we were doing like $4,000 or $5,000 a month of revenue. It was really, minuscule, right? But I call it the energy bar that saved my life, because I was in a deep depression. I mean, we look at mental health a lot different today. I had no idea, how bad it was.
What was going on, right?
It was not a good thing for me, right? I mean, the outcome of it was a divorce, a severed relationship with my kids, just not good. But the Shark Tank episode was a real light. Like, I got on there, I put my best foot forward, and then Kevin O'Leary says to me, hey, Jeff, I respect what you're doing, but you went bankrupt, and to me, you're radioactive. You'll never have a bank. No one's ever going to want to do business with you. And I'm like, really? Like, I did all this, and you're telling me, like, I'll never get back.
That is to kill and crush you.
Yeah, so you should watch the episode, because Robert came back at him and said, dude, you're telling this family guy that is like, he now has a second chance, that he'll never have a second chance. And anyway, they started arguing between each other.
I love Robert. I'm not because he's Croatian with Croatian heritage background as I am, but just love how kind and astute he is. And crushing someone's dream like that, it could lead to suicide, could lead to so many horrible things for people to lose the hope and give up.
So he was my fan and cheerleader. And I didn't get investment from the Sharks, but what I did get was a lot of publicity, which did not hurt. We actually, even before the show aired, we landed a national rollout with Safeway. Suddenly we were in 3,000 of their stores. And when Shark Tank heard that, they did a success story on me. I didn't even get money. And I was the very first company they ever did a success story on in season 2. And again, Kevin took credit for that. Like only Kevin, Mr. Wonderful can, right?
Wow.
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 And it's fine, right? Like,
Robert, we love you. And Kevin, you have a lot to learn.
Listen, he knows about getting ratings.
Yes. So I love what you just shared for multiple reasons, because poor leaders take credit for very little effort or very little work. The real leaders don't care about credit, but they truly want to have a magnificent outcome. And you were just proving over and over how amazing you are and how you are standing up and keep going and tweaking and figuring out. And that's why I want to say, I can see, and honestly, Robert is my favorite shark for many reasons, not just fellow Croatian again, but also because he's truly very, very kind. You don't have to get people that are already on their knees completely on the ground. And you can, and I'm just saying, in hardest times like this, that makes tremendous difference. So yeah, thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Go ahead, please.
Happy to do it. No, Izabela, just really great. I had a great experience on Shark Tank. Clay Newbill, the executive producer, the whole staff, just really amazing. But it really wouldn't have happened without my sister's, go-getting,
Community.
go-getter, right? Right. And she's well connected, and she's just, so Nancy, a big shout out to you. And I will say this, I exited the food business and went back to work at IBM when I did that. And we did a handoff, and I had my sister take over the company. But we just found, a lot of things in the food business that made it very difficult to make a real living. So a big shout out to my mentor, Pam, from IBM, who helped me get re-engaged for the second time when I went back to work at IBM. And it was in that time frame I just started noticing, there's a lot in my life to do, but the biggest thing I want to do is I want to create entrepreneurial freedom for entrepreneurs. Mike Michalowicz, one of the people I highly regard, his slogan is eradicating entrepreneurial poverty. And his book, Profit First, is an amazing book. I got certified in that program, and he and I just talked this week. He wrote me an amazing review for my book. I just think you eradicate entrepreneurial poverty by creating entrepreneurial freedom and giving entrepreneurs the tools to get from wherever they are to where people in their company are empowered to run it, and where employees have an ownership mentality. And most owners want that, not, especially if they have a desire to exit the business at some point. But what happens a lot of the time is business owners will often want to be the most important person in the company. And you are invited to do that as long as you are willing to have a 5-year earnout, or know that your family vacation will include 2 hours of work every day. No problem. When you're ready to actually have a vacation, and just ask your spouse or your kids if what they would like, that's when you want to start empowering your leaders to not only be leaders, but to be empowered to create leaders. And it's in the empowerment process that freedom exists.
Yes. That is so powerful. And I love how all this ties together again, because a lot of times when we look at just US economy, how much actual entrepreneurship is feeding into US economy, how many companies are there comparing to other large companies, and where that sits. And we cannot be without entrepreneurship successful and a successful economy. So kudos for doing that. And also, what amazing legacy. Oh my goodness. You were just just surprise after surprise after surprise, Jeff.
Oh,
so with everything you accomplished, everywhere you've been, and how many people you touched, and how much change and transformation you already made. You already have an astonishing legacy, but where are you headed? What are you trying to do with this book that is coming up in May, which will again properly add the links and all that information, and how you guys can get in touch with Jeff. But where are you going in this chapter of your life? What would you like to be remembered and known as? Not as that supernova in the first season of Shark Tank, or amazing board of directors, or amazing next level 90-day turnaround business, or C-Level Roundtable guy. Deep down, what is that?
Yeah, here's the thing. Everybody wants their people to be accountable. And the only place you really hear about accountability nowadays is on the news when there's a politician or a criminal being held accountable. So why would your employees want to be held accountable? There's no upside. So my dream is that 100,000 companies become countable. And in being countable, people are connected to each other. There's effective communication, and the outcomes that are desired are shared. And while I know I did not create the word countable, in fact, in the book, I've got all of the 5 references now that I found on the internet to the word. It's been used 5 times, I saw on the internet at this point. But that word stands for something. It gives you the ability to actually own it instead of pointing your finger at someone else and saying you're accountable. You can say, hey, I'm countable, or I'm not countable. And the legacy I leave is the legacy of being countable. And what that means to every person is going to be very personal and individual. But if you just change 4 letters in the word accountable, you have countable. And that's the difference.
Wow, that is so powerful. Wow, I'm sure there's going to be searched more than 5 times on Google very soon. And also, I really, as you were sharing that, I just keep hearing, Jeff, you can count on me. Because it's just like how that translates is just like, can you count on me? Absolutely, you can count on me. Can I count on you? It just gives that amazing reciprocation and connection and dynamic and duality. And that is so beautiful because we need more than ever that interconnectedness and also connectiveness as a whole. So that is so magical.
Thank you.
And in closing, any closing remarks? Because Jeff, we will have you back, and everybody that is watching and listening again, Jeff will be coming back because as you guys can see, we just scratched barely the surface in this conversation on this Legacy Leader episode. Please.
Well, I would just like to say thank you. I am so grateful for the opportunity to be able to share my story. And for those of you that stuck it out and listened to the whole thing, I just want to say, I'm grateful to be able to be comfortable to show you my warts. Like, I just get that when I share my successes with people, they get psyched. But when I share my failures, new actions show up that lead to success.
Yeah.
Take those on.
Wow. Beautiful. Brilliant. Thank you so much again. And then if anybody wants to connect with you till the book comes out and it gets published, and anybody can get an early either registration, pre-signed copy or anything like that, where would you like them to go?
Go to my LinkedIn profile. I'm one of the lucky few that early on signed up. So it's LinkedIn/Jeff Cohen. Yes, I actually have that there. But go look me up.
Because there's millions of Jeff Cohens around.
Oh my God, there totally are. Like, I have anonymity, so this will probably change that a little bit. Or go to the C-Level Roundtable website and send me a note. I'm happy to get you on the list so you get all the updates. All of my web properties and social media right now are being revamped. So when the book launches, countable.com will also be a location people can go and get through to me there. So Izabela, again, just thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to meet you today.
Thank you for listening to Legacy Leader Show. If you enjoyed the content and had a positive experience, then please leave us a positive rating. In addition, leave us a positive review whenever you are listening on whatever platform there might be. Make sure your friends and family also know about the benefit and value that we provide and what we have to offer. Cheers.